I know we talk about the Iron Bowl, and you were the co-executive producer of Roll Tide War Eagle, so I don't need to educate you on that rivalry. But this rivalry in recent years has really eclipsed the Iron Bowl for unbelievable drama.
I think listen, Alabama Auburn has bigger branding. Ohio State Michigan has bigger branding. But I'm not sure there's a rivalry that has more pure vitriol and hatred, and means more in terms of the identity within the state for the fan base. And especially, and you bring it up in terms of the recent history. Heck, we got a starting star quarterback and a Heisman contender in this game, and a guy who's going to be a first round NFL draft pick, who all you have to do is go back to his freshman year and remember what happened at the end of the third quarter, right, Paul? I mean, Matt Corral throws the touchdown pass, helmets are ripped off, punches are thrown, we got 4 players ejected. And to really understand the foundation of his Ole Miss career and to think about where it's gone, it's a fascinating story. We got the chance, our crew did, to spend some time with him yesterday. And he said, I'm very careful as to what I say this week. Very, very careful. But he's a guy who's obviously matured a lot. He's very disciplined. He's an incredible leader. He's not so happy with how they played down the stretch of last week's game and what was a sandwich game, and the lack of offensive production compared to what we typically have seen out of Ole Miss this year. So I think they're going to be firing off tomorrow. But on the other side, I think Will Rogers does not get enough attention nationally, Paul. I think this is a guy who's having as fine a year as anybody has had, and he's getting better each and every month. I think we're in store for an incredible primetime rivalry game on Thanksgiving night.
Talking to Joe Tessitore, and Joe, the two coaches are interesting, and it's been a theme really for a week and a half. We had Lane on, I think, last week, and he likes to talk about how he does not hate the other guy. And I mean, I know Nick Saban follows the same blueprint, but in the Egg Bowl, you're supposed to hate the other guy.
Yeah, I mean, the origin of why we have the Egg Bowl is the fact that fans came out of the stands and were picking up wooden chairs and hitting rival fans over the head with them. So that's well understood when it comes to this game. It's well understood by the players, too, if you see the actions of recent years, not just what I just described in 2018, but what Elijah Moore did a few years ago and time again on both sides of this. But Lane and Mike, we talked to yesterday, our production crew, and they're staying the course with what they've been saying. Lane's out there saying, hey, it's football. You really shouldn't just hate somebody else because of a certain school they went to or a certain school they root for. Paul, that's how we make money, Paul. That is how we have an SEC network, isn't it? Because in this league, the fans do feel that way. And I think we're going to have a really rowdy atmosphere tomorrow night. A safe atmosphere, but a rowdy atmosphere.
Let's get to the field, because you're so good at looking at film, and I know you and Greg mix it up quite well together during the broadcast. But when you mentioned Ole Miss lately, they have been very banged up. But where are they physically right now for this game?
I think they're better, and I think they're going to have their receivers back at full strength. I think when you look at this game, you really look at the Mississippi State side of things, because what you see is a team that, as the year goes on, listen, year 2 of the Mike Leach offense, we talked about it all preseason. We saw it early on, but now you really see it as the season goes on. The receivers' comfort with Will Rogers, of everybody being on the same page, of understanding how the air raid system is supposed to work, of it being, understood with that silent communication of where to find the open space, of how to run the routes. And you see Rogers not just checking down to the running backs, not just taking what's available to him, but now you're getting the intermediate and you're getting the deeper shots taken and completed. And then they're running the ball a little better. You say, well, they don't even run the ball. Yeah, actually they do, and they're running it. And this is something I think Greg McElroy is going to show tomorrow as to how much more significant it is with some of their run concepts. And even DJ Durkin, the defensive coordinator for Ole Miss, said to me yesterday, he said, it used to be you watch Mike's offense, and every so often they'd throw in a run play just because he's bored. That's not the case anymore. So you're getting a more balanced offense. You're getting an offense that's playing at all 3 levels of the passing game. You're getting an offense that has a quarterback who has a lot of confidence with his receivers. And then defensively, they're solid. They're really, really solid at all 3 levels. So they're a team that, yes, has had some ups and downs. Yes, has taken losses. but is very, very capable of earning a win on their home field against a top 10 team. Now, on the other side with Ole Miss, I really think last week you want to put a line through it, Paul. I think you don't want to look at that Vanderbilt game and put too much into it. I think it's sandwiched in between Texas A&M and this big rivalry game. What's on the line is so significant. It's not a given that it's the Sugar Bowl, but it's likely that it's the Sugar Bowl. And no matter, you got to think you're playing for a New Year's Six. You got to think you're playing for something very special. You're playing for the first 10-win regular season in program history. I expect Ole Miss to be playing very hungry and very focused.
Talking to Joe Tessitore before we wrap up here about the Egg Bowl. Going back to where we began, Joe, because for a couple of years, everybody got into the act about the antics that go on. And then it still continued. And I know that we're not hearing as much about it this week because it does seem like a calmer, or especially because of the coaches. But is that a message that these coaches even bother to send now? Or do they just assume that the players know the mistakes of the past have been very costly?
I wouldn't think so. Obviously they don't want penalties. They don't want stuff that affects the game. They don't want key players ejected from the game. But I think it's very hard to rein things in right before kickoff here. I think this is one of those where, they're going to be ready to bust through the doors of each locker room to hit the field, Paul.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.